Does your boyfriend break up with you? Is your fare not here anymore to carry you? Does your boyfriend break up with you? You can't pocket a fare? Kaylee. You understand that no one at home loves you?
Check your mind.
That's actually true.
Like, seriously, sit with me and have a conversation. You know that nobody cares if you die tomorrow, right? Like,
You have no friends.
It's a fact.
No
Like,
one-
if you
no
die,
one- no
let's
one-
say you're playing a computer right now, you're in a basement. If you die, you'll rot there for months and maybe years. Because nobody knows you exist. You understand? Like, it's not even a conversation. That's just a
Let
fact.
that sink in.
It's just a fact that you'd sit there and rot because no one cares.
Hey, Steak, come here.
There's a problem in Overwatch that just does not get spoken about enough. It's not exclusive to Overwatch by any means, and in fact, it's obviously a byproduct of our society. But unlike the world at large, there's very little discussion of this topic within our game, and indeed esports in general. Sexism. Now, as I mentioned this topic, there's probably three ways in which anyone watching will respond. The first will be the group of people who either experience it or already recognize it as a problem. The second will be the people who are either unaware of its severity or haven't given it much thought and are open to hearing more about it. And the third are the people who feel that it most definitely isn't a problem, or that it's a problem that's largely exaggerated. Today, I want to speak directly to the people in categories 2 and 3, because they probably represent the majority of the player base. And if something is to change in gaming, then it needs to involve everyone. Now, all I ask from anyone who feels that they fit these categories is that you listen and watch until the end of the video before you make your mind up. I want to talk about what the problem is, why we need to do something about it, and what we could potentially do to make it better. And if, by the end, you still disagree with me, then by all means, you can tell me why in the comments, or you can just ignore me entirely. But please do watch with an open mind, because this is really important. What you heard at the start of the video, and what you will hear throughout the rest of it, are real encounters that women have gone through. If at any point you find them tough to listen to secondhand, imagine how tough it might be to actually be the target of this kind of horrible language. Now, immediately, I know a lot of people's gut instinct will say, well, that's the nature of online gaming. Everyone receives abuse and toxicity when they're playing a competitive game. And this is absolutely true.
They're horde, right?
Shut the fuck up! Can you guys hear me? Shut up, you troll! I will find you now! Fuck you! I will fuck you! Do you want a little brother? Do you want a little brother? I will fuck your mom! And I will give you a little brother! Motherfucker!
Everyone at some point playing online competitive video games will have someone say some really mean stuff to them. But not all abuse is equal. And the types of abuse that you will hear during this video, and indeed the types of abuse that women face regularly while playing online games, are part of something far more concerning. There's some insults you can brush off as just standard online toxicity. And then there are others which are a lot more insidious, a lot more personal, and which make you feel fundamentally unwelcome to gaming as a whole.
You fucking e-girl boosted scrub, mothman, you moth abusing, boost SR breaking, trash gun!
Female gamers are consistently the target of a specific set of attacks and comments, and each of them are their own form of malicious. I want to just start by spelling out what these are and why they're so alarming. The first is perhaps the most stereotypical of gamers, the sexual comments.
Yo, let me get your MySpace. Can I get you a MySpace, Bez? I know you still use MySpace.
Hey Ella,
Tryna-
can I eat your ass?
She's probably into that.
Ella, why does this smell like fresh apricots? Okay. Typical of women, no response? Ella, you don't need armor, just use your boobies.
Anyone
Shut
has
up!
a wall? Hey, we respecting you out here. We could be shit talking you.
The whammon died.
Now, for a lot of people, when they think of a gamer, they think of a man who sits at home all day in his mother's basement because he has no friends and or could never be of interest to women in real life. Anyone who has actually gamed and made friends online will know that this is completely baseless. It relies on a very outdated view of gamers as social outcasts, when in fact, gaming is no longer a point of shame. It's mainstream. It's cool.
Popular players to come here and teach me. Please welcome Ninja.
Everyone games now, from kids to their parents to even their grandparents. And yet, despite how diverse and enterprise gaming has become, the culture of the community hasn't necessarily adjusted to its new demographics. Very frequently, just the sound of a female voice or the thought that a girl might be on the team seems to ignite some primal sense of stupidity amongst a large section of the male player base.
Is that a girl?
They don't.
A girl gamer? Oh my.
Oh my god, like girls play this game.
Yo, girl, can I get your Snapchat?
Shut your mouth.
Why?
Can I get it? I'm fine
Let's get it.
My age doesn't matter in this.
You can have my Minecraft account in return if you want, please. You're a nice girl. I don't ever communicate with girls. Please. Can I have your Snapchat?
I probably don't even have to explain why this is unwelcome for the female players who receive it. Having some anonymous person hit on you just because they reckon you have the right biology for their sexual preference is creepy. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. Why would someone try to come on to you when all that they know is that you're possibly female? Is that the only bar that has to be passed? And yet, it happens. And when someone is on the receiving end, it makes them feel like an object, not a person. Just a means to an end. Just a set of body parts to be projected upon. And questions like where are you from and can I be your boyfriend are particularly intimidating in a world where men tracking, stalking, and violating the privacy of women as part of their sexual advances is a very real problem. When studies have found that as many as 75% of women have been followed home by a stranger at least once, it's not paranoid to say that what might seem like innocent pieces of banter to some are actually really scary to hear. Beyond the emotional degradation, there's the possibility of a very real threat. Overall, it reflects really poorly on male gamers because it does scream with the behavior of someone who must never interact with women in real life. Why else would you need to make a pass at someone just because they sound like a woman?
This looks good.
You look good.
Yikes.
The other kind of comments that women receive are a lot more toxic and require a little bit more unpacking, but they are in their nature very predictable. This category generally culminates in some version of, you're a girl, therefore you can't play or be good at video games. Sometimes these are crude and fairly cliche.
Get the hell off, go to the kitchen, bitch. Why is the dishwasher in my goddamn game?
And at other times, they are much more deep-rooted and malicious.
I'm not trying with a girl on Enzo, sorry.
Really?
Video game, dude. What's the big deal about that? You fucking ridiculous or what?
Why does it matter?
Because she's a girl, she can't play Hanzo?
It's
Do you
not
hear
her
yourself?
account, dude. She's on her swan trick.
Are you
His fucking
actually?
boyfriend and main account, I don't know.
Are you actually serious?
Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
I didn't buy my account. I am a support
either
player.
you're hacking or you fucking bought the account.
Are you
So
serious?
why, dude,
One of
we're
the
fucking
two.
getting rolled every
Like,
time.
she's fucking ruining the game.
She's a girl? Where are you from? Fucking Afghanistan, dude?
I don't want that gun.
I got 2. Oh, I actually got 3 because I got Hanzo. I'm not cheating. Hello?
Okay, no way you can get this rank on DPS.
Are you serious? Pull the fucking stick out of your ass if you think girls can't move a mouse just as well as men.
Fact. The fact. What?
That you can't.
Now, rather than just condemn these actions with words, I want to approach them with science. If the position being put forward by these people is that women can't or don't play video games, then let's look at the substance of this claim and bear with me while we go on this little tangent. According to a study conducted by the Entertainment Software Association, 46% of US gamers are female. So right off the bat, it's pretty clear that women do in fact play video games. What's interesting though is the type of games women are playing. If we narrow our criteria down to millennial gamers, those aged 18 to 34, who are in truth the primary consumers of games like Overwatch, then racing games are a unanimously popular genre amongst both men and women. However, while male gamers overwhelmingly gravitate towards multiplayer action-based games, female gamers are much more likely to be interested in puzzle and party games, often on their own. What conclusion can we draw from this, if any? Well, we might argue that this furthers the idea that boys will be boys, that men like games with violence and destruction, and women prefer games with a softer touch that focus on problem solving and creative thinking. Some might look at this and point to biology, and say that this is the natural order of things, that men and women are both wired to behave this way. They would argue that it's simple evolution. However, it would probably be more accurate to say that these speak to our cultural norms, and what kind of things we encourage men and women to like and dislike. For example, addressing the appeal for men in action and online FPS games, we might look at how men are encouraged to be assertive and competitive, and told that qualities such as these display strength of character. These are qualities that make men suited to leadership and governance, roles which are still dominated by men in most countries around the world. Nice guys, meanwhile, who are agreeable and less confrontational, are seen as less competent and less suited for managerial roles.
I said, please don't be too nice.
On the other hand, women who display overt signs of leadership and dominance are seen as less likable and less hireable, even when they are themselves in a leadership position. We might even look at these dynamics in the home, where women are often asked to take a supportive role towards men and are disproportionately given responsibilities such as household work and caregiving. When we notice things like these, it becomes easy to see why gender-based discrepancies manifest themselves even in video games. It's not particularly a stretch to suggest that being constantly told to take the back seat might make someone more inclined to play video games which are a little bit more inward looking. Games that focus on storytelling and problem solving, which allow you a rare chance for control and autonomy and perhaps even an escape. While men focus on games that fulfill the expectations put upon them to compete with and dominate others. Of course, this doesn't even address the more meta aspects of these gaming choices, such as what the marketing campaigns for such games are and how FPS titles have in the past tended to advertise directly to men while ignoring the lens of female gamers. Only in recent times have game developers tried to change this, and they received plenty of backlash from male audiences for doing so. But while all these discussions about our culture and society will be absolutely valid, the idea that women don't like to compete or aren't interested in esports is actually not as true as we think it is. Mobile esports platform Skills hosts a wide variety of games ranging from puzzles to card games and even action games.
Operation Esports for everyone. By bringing multiplayer competitions with prizes to mobile, Skills lets anyone become a pro esports athlete.
Skills reports that 7 of the top 10 earners in both 2017 and 2018 were in fact women. The highest earning of these, a female player by the username of KMamba1090, managed to win herself a total prize pool of nearly $1.5 million in 2018, which would put her at number 6 in the rankings for highest earning esports athletes in the world. Hardly evidence of a lack of biological ability. Across esports as a whole, women make up 35% of all players and 30% of all watchers, and this number is rapidly growing. For context, in 2016, only 23% of esports viewers were women, but they are most definitely underrepresented in certain esports, particularly FPS games like CSGO and Rainbow Six Siege. Overwatch actually ranks highest in this regard with a population that's 26% female, and yet we might look at the highest level of play, Overwatch League, and question why only one player amongst a total roster of hundreds is female. I mean, no evidence till date has proven any biological edge that men might have when it comes to operating a mouse and keyboard or a game controller, and when it comes to cognitive abilities, capabilities have been proven to be also the same across genders. So what is going on? This is where we return to our original discussion. And this is where we have to go beyond statistics and look at the reasons why women, despite clearly having an interest in gaming, despite clearly participating in esports, and despite having no inherent disadvantage in ability, are often shying away from games like Overwatch, Call of Duty, and even League of Legends, while embracing many others. And the conclusion we have to draw is because they're not made to feel welcome. In fact, they're actively harassed and gate-kept away by hostile communities predominantly made up of men.
Jesus Christ, thanks for the fucking gamer girl. Oh my fucking god. Useless gaming girl. Sorry, I love you. You're a great part of this community and I'm glad you exist for the diversity purposes. Please know that everything I said was satirical, and I think you're a beautiful mother of. Yeah, I'm gonna rape you. Yeah.
Don't take it from me. If you're a guy watching this video, just ask any female Overwatch player about the kind of things that have been said to her, and you will honestly be shocked. Or perhaps you won't. Perhaps you'll feel, like I said at the start of the video, that such abuse is a normal part of gaming in general. Well, it's not. Because being criticized for your gameplay, for something you did, or something you said, is a normal part of competitive gaming. It's a normal part of competing in general, and even if we look at traditional sports, when you're in an environment where a lot is at stake, be that money, a victory, or just SR, emotions will naturally boil over, and people will behave in toxic ways that they themselves would regret later. But being attacked for who you are, and in this case, simply for your gender, is not a normal part of anything. And yet, this is the experience of women playing Overwatch.
Fuck me, if you guys pushing forward, just come back.
I don't really think that's the problem here.
Shut up, you dumb slut.
What?
It may not happen to every single one of them, and it certainly doesn't happen in every single game, but the dominant experience of being a girl gamer is that of being harassed. The same cannot be said for men. Again, the statistics back this up. 64% of women report harassment when gaming, and statistically receive 3 times as many derogatory or insulting remarks as men. I know immediately a lot of guys watching this video will say that they've been attacked and flamed in game for frivolous and sometimes non-existent reasons, and I am not putting that in doubt at all. Those feelings of hurt and belittlement are absolutely valid. We've all been on the receiving end of language that has made us feel horrible. But as men, it is not our collective experience to be attacked for our gender.
I'll give you gushers. I'll give you my gushers, please. I'll give you my gushers and fruit roll-up in return for your Snapchat. Seems like a fair deal.
I think you're trying to call her fat.
She's not fat, she's thick. Can I have your Snapchat?
The man is trying.
Oh my god, I swear.
I fucking love you.
Please let me have your Snapchat. Grill, can I have your Snapchat?
As a man, I will never enter a game and join voice chat only to be greeted by a chorus of, "A guy? Oh my god, a guy? A guy gamer? Do you have Snapchat? We're gonna lose, we got a guy on our team." When men are attacked in game, it is not because they are men. They are absolutely attacked for their play, or their choice of hero, or something they said, and sometimes none of those, but not specifically their gender. And this distinction is an important one to make, because women playing games are attacked specifically because they are women. They are singled out and made to feel alienated because the way they sound, or their battle tag, or because the hero they're playing tells the harassers that this is a woman behind the screen. And that in turn triggers a response where they feel they need to point this out, and it always makes the targeted player realize that they are not considered a gamer like anyone else, that they are other, that they are seen as an alien in this environment. At this stage though, I should clarify one point. Does all this mean that male harassment doesn't exist? And does all this mean that gay and trans men and men with soft or high-pitched voices aren't attacked? Absolutely not. Any such men watching this video, or anyone who knows someone who fits that description, will know all too well that they too have been targeted, often just because of the sound of their voice, or sometimes even just their hero choice. So the idea that they are also not victimized is categorically untrue. Male harassment does very much exist, and it is a very real problem that we must analyze, condemn, and stamp out. And it exists both on and off our computer screens.
No, never. Come here. Nurse, I need clean sheets right away to room 1000.
She's covering because she's embarrassed that she likes a nurse. And I really can't figure out why.
Well, that's because you're doing a woman's job, son. Have a good one.
But again, there is a distinction between the causes and the underlying reasons why men are harassed when playing video games, and we can return to the evidence to see exactly why. Research tells us that feminist men, i.e. men who advocate for the rights of women, are more likely to be the victims of sexual harassment. On top of this, sexual minority men were more likely to be engaged in feminist activity and thus doubly targeted. Research also tells us that men who are perceived as more feminine in male-dominated environments are more likely to be harassed and be the victims of unwanted sexual advances. As we've already discussed, Overwatch is a very male-dominated environment, so the extension of the data is a simple one. What is the common denominator here? What is being attacked? Well, it's not masculinity, it's femininity, and perceived proximity to femininity. What we can see from this, and what many of us know anecdotally, is that femininity is seen as both weak and unwanted in places like gaming. Women are obviously targeted as a consequence, but even men who are deemed to be too feminine are put in the firing line. Men with soft or high voices, gay men, and particularly gay men who are deemed to overtly display their homosexuality. These men are targeted, but not because of their masculinity, they are being targeted because of their perceived lack of it. They are singled out because amongst the hyper-masculine, male-dominated field of hardcore gaming, they are seen as representing undesirable qualities. They're too soft, too agreeable, too nice, too girly. All things that the traditional values of gaming culture does not tolerate. And this is why, again, we must return to our original issue. It is not a sin to be a woman in gaming, and we need the gaming community to realize this. Because the day that being a girl is no longer a reason to be targeted or attacked or harassed is the day that women can play the game with true freedom. And in that world, even being too close to femininity, i.e. being a man who isn't deemed to fit stereotypical masculine ideals, will also no longer be a reason to be targeted. Ultimately, and I think this is one thing everyone can agree with, even if they dislike what I'm saying, we want Overwatch to be played by everyone. And the same goes for video games in general. We want everyone to feel welcome to pick up a controller or a mouse and keyboard and play games with their friends and make new ones as they go, no matter who they are. And we don't want any set of people to be singled out or attacked or be on the receiving end of consistent and persistent abuse simply for existing. But that is a long fight, and we have to win it one step at a time. And this is the first step. So how do we combat this? Well, for a lot of people, their solution to sexism is to advocate for responding the same way they would to abuse in general. Mute your mic, leave voice chat, and or block the offenders in question. And while normally this is a good way to resolve conflict in a video game where you'll only ever see the person for 20 odd minutes and then never again most likely, it is absolutely not the right approach when it comes to discrimination. Because in this case, silence only helps one person, the abuser. And what it says to the victims of abuse, in this case, women who are being attacked simply for being women, is that there is no one on their side, that no one will help them. Having spoken to as many women as I could while researching this video, I asked for their thoughts on the issue, and one of the most dominant themes that emerged was this. What felt worst about the experience was that even if there was only one person being horrible in voice chat, the other players in the lobby would almost never speak up either. And that, in truth, is the greatest shame of our community. Because there will always be assholes. There will always be horrible people who say anything they can just for the sake of being hurtful and just for the sake of getting a reaction. But I genuinely believe that these people who are deliberately malicious, are the minority. And chances are, anyone who has stuck around with this video for this long is not like that. But if the majority of us remain silent when this goes on, then what good are we? Again, the research has shown that silence is not the right solution. Women on the receiving end of online abuse are more likely to feel loneliness and anxiety than others. They're also likely to take steps to hide their identity and avoid all forms of communication in order to avoid being harassed. They frequently shift friend groups and are unable to build a lasting support system. Women watching this video will relate all too well with the act of not joining voice chat in fear of being flamed, of not picking stereotypically female heroes, of not choosing battle tags that might hint at their gender identity. And each of these things just shows us why women don't play FPS games, and why they aren't more prominent in gaming in general. Because gaming is pushing them away. Gaming is isolating them and making them think that they're on their own, that there aren't others like them, and that there isn't anyone who will support them, who will stand with them. It makes them think that they don't belong. This is what we need to eradicate. And if we want change, then the change has to come from us. We have to be better. Men, we have to do better. For my part, I'm calling on everyone to speak up. Speak up when you see this happening. Speak up to tell the abusers that their behavior and their presence is not welcome in our community. Speak up in support of female players and let them know that they're not alone. If it really is just a minority of people that are horrible, then let's show the gaming community that the majority of us won't stand for it. And hopefully, more women will feel comfortable to speak up when they join voice chat, and they won't have to feel isolated. They won't have to hide away and erase their own identity for fear of being targeted for it. Because that's not a game I want to be a part of. Nor do I want to be a part of a gaming community that doesn't respect women and LGBTQ people and people of all races and creeds. That's not what Overwatch the game was ever supposed to be about. Overwatch is a game, both in its lore and its gameplay, that prides itself on being diverse. On being a place where anyone is welcome, where everyone can feel accounted for, and where everyone can be a hero. Well, this is the time when the world needs heroes.
But look around! Someone has to do something! We have to do something! We can make a difference again. The world needs us now, more than ever. Are you with me?
It's time that we speak up and be counted for. Share your voice in game, and importantly, share your voice on social media. Share instances of harassment and call them out. Let's make this a movement. Because I believe we can make a better game, and I believe we can get there together. And that's all I got for today, guys. Thank you for sticking around with this video, and I know that amongst certain sections of the community, it won't go down well. But this really is a problem, and we've gone long enough being silent on it. We can't let it keep happening, and at some point, we have to take a stand. So I hope you will join me in doing so. I'd also like to thank all the women like Cupcake and Fangetta who've helped make this video by providing me with their clips, stories, and testimonies. And particularly I want to thank my friends and mods from my Discord server, without whose help I wouldn't have felt comfortable making this video. As always, I want to give a big shout out to my patrons who do the awesome job of supporting me, and for anyone interested, there's a festive offer going on right now that you can investigate if you head on over to Patreon. But that's it from me. I'll be back next week with another video, and I hope I'll be returning to a community that is in some minuscule way a little bit kinder and a little bit better. See you guys soon.